Hey,
Hey, I don't think anyone else is coming today.
no one else is coming. Well, that's okay. Why don't we take a few minutes? I'm actually gonna show this several times this week because I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to see this, and I also want a chance to practice talking about what I'm going to talk about in just a moment. This came out of that discussion that we had with Jill the other day, where she was asking about the principle of raising your spirit and lowering your
Yeah.
chi. And I said, yes, in Chinese, that's Shuling Ding Jing Qi Chen Dan Qian. Right? Raise your chi and your mind upward and lower your chi. And that's a really important principle. And we used this bungee cord as a way of talking about that. So you're raising what's light, you're lowering what's heavy, and
Yeah.
that stretches, and then you can condense, you can stretch, etc. But that's only part of the story. And I ran across a video yesterday on the Weather Channel of all places. There's a little short segment that is a beautiful description of what is missing in that explanation. That explanation I gave you there is mostly structural, a little bit of dynamism in there, but mostly structural. But it's missing the signature energy of Huanyan Tai Chi, Chen style Tai Chi, which is the spiral. And so I'm going to show you this little video. It's like 2.5 minutes long, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. But before I show you, I should show you, because I'm still in the process of making them. I want to show you the photo wall that I brought from the old studio in San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
So I made this photo collage, and from the bottom to the top, each layer goes back more generations in the history of Tai Chi,
Yeah.
right? But what I want you to look at is the one on the top, the oldest one, the original one. Oop,
Oh, it's a twister.
it's a twister, right? Why would I put that picture as the original picture? Because yes, twisters are dangerous and destructive. They're also beautiful, elegant, and they are wild.
Yeah.
They are not part of the human matrix. They're part of wild nature. And they are spinning. They are um, spinning in
Spiral power.
spiral power, right? Okay, what has that got to do with the bungee cord? All right. Well, let's see. Let's draw back from our history lesson there. There's our house. There's the door to the house.
Uh,
There's the door to the garage attic.
yeah. I have one of those in
You
one
got
of the
one too.
bedrooms.
Yeah, we have a hatch in the bedroom, but it's not very usable. So I had to put an actual staircase in, a foldable staircase.
Yeah.
All right, let's watch this little video.
Hey Malcolm, there's one
Yeah,
thing I was going to mention, but before I forget, when we were talking, it was yesterday, I think, about the the hydraulic piston
right,
and the
right,
the daimai.
right.
It reminded me of the Vegematic. You remember the Vegematic?
The good old Vegematic.
The piston would go up and down, and
Yeah,
the cutter would spin,
would spin around.
and they were the same action.
Well, Grand trying to push Grandmaster Fong is like trying to push an organic Vegematic. You would be lucky if you came out alive. All right, let's watch this little video and then we'll talk about it for a second.
Is that a video editor?
Yeah, it's just iMovie.
Spring
Oh,
is traditionally tornado season. As winter turns to spring, polar air from the Rockies spills across the plains. It sets off on a collision course with warm, moist air heading north from the Gulf of Mexico. The stage is set. Warm air is light and wants to rise. Cool air is heavy and wants to sink. When the two air masses collide, they begin to spin. Tornado expert Robin Tanamachi has a simple way to demonstrate what happens next.
What we have right now is a very unstable arrangement. You can see we've got this very dense, heavy water up in the upper chamber, and the lower chamber is filled with air, which is much less dense than the water. And the air wants to go up into the upper chamber, the water wants to come down.
Scale this instability up a few thousand times, and you get vast thunderclouds called supercells, the birthplace of tornadoes. Compared to regular thunderstorms, they can span 20 miles across and tower twice the height of Mount Everest. Supercells are the most ferocious of all thunderstorms. But the energy in the storm needs an outlet. The cold air wants to sink, and the warm air wants to rise. In order to restore the balance and release the energy, another ingredient needs to be introduced.
You can see some of the air bubbles are kind of traveling up into the upper chamber, but this is a pretty inefficient way to restore the balance to this unbalanced system. And so what I'm going to do is impart a little bit of vorticity to the system by sloshing it around a bit so that now it spins. And now we have a vortex that's formed in the middle, so that now the air is flowing upwards through the center of that vortex into the upper chamber, and the water is flowing downwards into the lower chamber, so that this is a much more efficient way for the system to go back into balance.
The imbalance allows the warm and cold air to mix by spinning them together. It's the fastest way for the heavy air to sink down. This spinning is known as wind shear.
So I'm gonna play that in a number of classes, including next Saturday in the Foundation Studies class. But I didn't know whether you're going to be there or not going to be there, and I want everybody to see this. That description in her little bottles, and the comment that creating the vortex makes the process so much more efficient, so much more powerful. I mean, that's what a tornado is.
yeah.
That's Tai Chi in a nutshell. So we've talked about, spiral power energy. So this is, but I haven't really found the right way and the right language, and I'm still searching for it, to talk about what that has to do with Shuling Ding Jing Qi Chen Dan Qian. It's exactly like what she's saying. What is light wants to go up, and what's heavy wants to go down.
It's like when the tornado touches down.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the tornado literally forms because those flows are happening. And when
Right.
those flows happen, suddenly, just out of thin air, the tornado begins to appear. Of course, you're not really seeing the wind, you're seeing the water and dust that the wind is picking up. Nevertheless, the difference between what she did and what we do is she only had so much water in that upper chamber and so much air in the lower. We have potentially an infinite supply of that. So it's not like a one-time thing that the chi goes down and the spirit comes up. They're actually continuous flows. The question then is, how do you organize those flows? If you kind of use a very naive way of approaching it, then it's kind of like just the random bubbles coming up from underneath. That makes a little room and a little water goes down. Then another bubble comes up. But it's very slow. It's very random. It's not very elegant, not particularly beautiful, and it's not very powerful. And it's not efficient. But the vortexing that she put in there is actually created by the Coriolis effect of the Earth, right? Coriolis effect is an effect of the spinning of the Earth. And so you find tornadoes and hurricanes responding to that. They move in one direction above the equator, they move in the opposite direction below the equator. So it's actually the spinning of the Earth that imparts that, what did she call it? Well, that it imparts some spin to it, right? Anyway, that's what you're trying to move toward in Tai Chi and Qigong, particularly Chen style Tai Chi, and Hunyan is a form of Chen style, is everything's spiraling because it makes it so much more efficient. It's most people, when they begin Tai Chi training, have never even thought about this stuff before. I didn't. Nobody that I know ever did.
Why would you?
Why would you? You know, you don't even think about it. But once you start thinking about it, you begin to become aware of possibilities inside yourself that you hadn't really considered before. So Tai Chi and Qigong don't give you anything you don't already have. They just make you aware of certain possibilities. And then you start to go, well, okay, what can I do with those possibilities? Well, if you have Zhang Shuixin as your teacher, or you have Grandmaster Feng as one of your teachers, they can show you exactly what it can do as far as the martial arts go. Equally for Qigong as a health art. So these are folks who have been working on this stuff for 40 or 50 years, and they've gone a long way along the path. So they can shine a light backward on the path and show you, okay, well, this is what's going to happen, more or less in this sequence of steps. How fast you get there, how fast you get to certain steps and move forward, well, that's, who knows how that's going to go. It's up to you, but but it kind of goes this way. And after a while, you realize, just like balance itself, these are skills you can achieve by paying some attention to it. All right? So the idea that a heavy force is falling and a light force is rising, and they're continuous. Okay, that's much more sophisticated than not even thinking of yourself inside at all, never even considering anything inside. Okay, now I've started to consider inside, oh, is there something going up and something going down? When in China, when folks do standing meditation, they often do it in relationship to a tree. And there's different reasons for that. One reason is the tree's giving off oxygen and you're oxygenating yourself. Another is to contemplate the treeness of the tree. A tree has two vascular systems, the xylem and the phloem. Right? The xylem brings water from the roots up to the leaves, and the phloem brings nutrients from the leaves back down to the roots. So, and they're both flowing all the time. They're always continuously going. It's exactly like what we are. Oh, okay, now you start to become aware of that. Okay, now I'm aware of that. From the martial arts point of view, you want to make that, if you're going to do something with that process, you want it to be as efficient as possible. So instead of just a few bubbles coming up and a few drops of water going down, oh, what could we do to make this process very efficient, very quick, using our minds? What could we do? Well, you could apply the spin. It's just like what you see in nature, right? You see the same thing actually. If there's a rain-filled ditch with a culvert, right? You'll see the same vortex as the water goes down into the culvert and then runs off into the river or something. Oh, well, just pay attention to that. All right? So everything we do is in a spiral. Right? This is the grindstone. The grindstone is a great one to consider because it's so simple. And it really works your inner column here just like it's a tornado. And reverse. Annie said during break, when she first started Tai Chi and Qigong, and she's doing this, she thought the point was the hands, that the hands are doing something. And it was only as time went on she discovered, partly because of stuff I was saying, partly just through self-observation, well, it's not really your hands, it's this. Right? Oh, it's your trunk spinning. The hands are just expressing the spin, but they're not causing it. One of the things that I noticed, especially with Master Feng, is when you just looked at him, he's just standing there, maybe he's talking, whatever, right? But when you pushed hands with him, when you touched him, you realized, I don't know how to express this. We don't have the language for this. So I'm going to express it kind of metaphorically. You would touch him, and actually he felt very still inside. Felt very still. But at the same time, you felt like, oh, he's a hard drive revolving at 10,000 RPM. How both those happen at the same time, I can't tell you, but that's what it felt like. And all he had to do was go like that. And the energy of that spin, he could do anything he wanted with. So you would push him up here, he would throw you over there. It's just like he'd hardly even do anything. Because what he was doing was listening to your energy. And then going, okay, this guy's energy is going over here. I don't want him to knock me over or punch me in the nose, so how can I redirect his energy? Just using his own spin. Really combining his spin with your spin to spin you out of the way. That's Tai Chi. It can get much more complex than that, but that's basically Tai Chi. I'm interested in this approach to this because it seems to me much more basic than a lot of the, you know, when we're talking about the thoracic piston and all that. It's not that that's not important. It is important, but it's like, okay, that should come later. This is closer to the root of what's going on. I had a couple of signatures on here. All right. Let's practice. We'll just practice for 2 or 3 minutes here. Let's practice the shoulder rolls. Now, part of this is stretching open and then relaxing closed. Stretch open, relax closed. Stretch open between the white spots and then relaxed. They come closer together, they're closed. Open, closed. Open, closed. Okay, that's important. But it's less important than the spin. All right, watch. Spin. 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 Now you can see the shoulder spinning and the whole arm turning. But not only is the shoulder spinning, so is the hip. Because the hips and the shoulders are cognate joints. But in fact, everything is spinning. Your ankle, your knee, your hip, your spine.
Your waist,
everything.
That's what I like about this exercise. You can pick any one of them. They're all, you know, all the directions are moving at once.
Every exercise you should be doing that. If it's not clear to you where the spins are, then there's your challenge. There's your question. Where's the spin? You got to find the spins. There is no movement in Hunyuan Tai Chi or Qigong in which every part of your body is spinning, not spinning. Right? Everything is spinning. Spin. 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 So what you're learning to do by figuring out how to move through spirals, through spins, is you're learning how to move your chi in the most efficient manner. You're always going to be separating, coming back together, separating, coming back together. Question is how? The answer is by the spin. Spinning. Spin as you separate. Separate. Spin back in as you condense. Spin back. Spin back. I actually don't like spin back. You're just continuing to spin. Spin. And can you feel it in your ankles?
Yeah, I think one thing that I think is valuable is like, it's sort of like that body check when you're doing whatever you're doing, just start, it's like a scan, you know, just start looking at everything, because sometimes you can get into sort of the externality of the movement, but you're not paying attention to everything.
Somebody brought that up in the earlier class. Grandmaster Fung used to call that falling back asleep. You're falling asleep. These exercises are deliberately simple. They are deliberately very, very basic, fundamental, simple exercises. Because if you can grab those, then the complex ones are relatively easy. Because the complex ones are just made up of the simple ones. All right? But if you're doing Tai Chi, did you feel everything spiraling? Well, you should, but the truth is, you're going to have to work those moves for years before you really discover what's inside of them. But if you, as he suggested, spend 70% of your time working on Qigong, you'll actually get there faster
Right.
because you're studying the foundation. And then you put the blocks together, and suddenly you're there 4 times faster than you would be if you just did Tai Chi.
You know, I was thinking what you said about the hard drive and the
Yeah.
stillness. So
Yeah.
it's like people, the point, which is, you know, infinitesimally small, is not really moving, or you
Yes.
don't think it's moving. But as soon as you go out of that, then forget it. You're just like, you're
Boom.
thrown.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was like. I mean, Master Fung was always very kind to us beginners when he would push with us. Nevertheless, pushing with Fung was like sticking your hand into a washing machine when it was going.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a conscious washing machine, so he wasn't going to break your arm, but you could feel it. I was like, oh my God, all right, now I get it now. Because he would take you a little ways, and then he'd look at you. Do you understand? Ming Bai, Ming Bai, do you understand? Yes, I understand.
You
If
know,
you didn't understand, he might take you all the way to the ground. What's that?
when you first started addressing the like the raising and the lowering at the same time,
Right.
at first I couldn't kind of get behind it, like just sort of in my head, like how do I, or my feeling, it's like, oh, that's, you know, how am I going to do this? And then I realized that it was, well, at least for me, I said, well, wait a second. If I'm like even on the grindstone, like the action starting at the foot, it's like,
Yeah.
well, that thing is going down. So what?
Yeah.
This is not that complicated, really.
No,
So
it's not.
I got to go down to go up. So both of these things are going like that. And it was like, oh, this is a little simpler than I thought, but it took a while to get there.
That's why, as a teacher, I am struggling so hard to find the right language and the right images and the right metaphors because it's actually very simple. It's simpler than the words.
Yeah, the semantics can be confusing.
Complicated.
Yeah.
But we don't really have technical language for this kind of stuff. I can't put a mathematical equation up on the blackboard, and so we don't have a language that we share. And then this is also coming from another culture that has its own long, complex history and a lot of things they understand that just completely go over our heads.
Yeah, I think one thing I've noticed is that, and I think it's really valuable to sort of keep talking about it because you can develop over time, and you can develop language that means something, and something you say might mean something to one person, and oh, the light bulb goes off, and maybe other people different language. So I was thinking about like the drawings that you've done of like, this is the microcosmic orbit. So, well, you represent that with a line. Or
Yeah.
you say, oh, this word, the daimai is the line. So at least for me, when I first was visualizing, it was like, oh yeah, I got this is like this line. It's like, it's not a line.
Exactly.
It's like an entire wave And
Exactly.
and then it goes even further out. So when you're spiraling, you think of a circle that moves
Yeah.
through distance, right?
Yeah.
It's like a line. It's
Yeah.
not a line.
It's not a line.
It's the tornado, it's that vortex.
It's not a line, and yet if you wanted to draw a picture of it, you're
You
going
have
to
to
have
draw a
to
line.
draw a line, right? There's I don't know, some great writer said something once that a metaphor both reveals and conceals,
Obscures, yeah.
obscures, right?
Yeah.
And the Zen way of saying that, the master points at the moon, and then the master says, "Don't look at my finger, look at the moon." My finger doesn't matter. The
Right.
moon is what matters, right? Don't get caught in the metaphors, because metaphors are all metaphors are broken. So you're using something that's already broken to try and point towards something else. Pay attention to what the teacher is actually pointing at.
Right.
Don't get hung up on the metaphors.
I was thinking about bullets coming out, rifling inside of a barrel.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, the thing just, it's not like the muskets were just like a ball, right?
Exactly.
But it's pushing air out of the way. I mean, it's like, encountering resistance the whole time.
Master Zhang used to use that metaphor all the time of rifling, right? That the bullet comes out like that. Yeah. He used to say, what did he use? Getting hit, punched by some of the other Chinese martial arts is a little bit like getting shot with a bullet. He said getting hit by someone who truly understands Chen style Tai Chi is like getting hit by an ICBM. It hits you and then it explodes.
Right.
So what he was saying is there's an explosive charge. They're actually giving you some energy.
Right.
And once it's in you, then it. And I think at that time I may have asked him, "Well, what do you mean?" And so he came up.
Watch this.
Watch this. He came up and he says, I'm gonna give you a little pop on your arm. Do you want the bruise from that pop to be where I hit you? Or would you prefer it to be on the other side? Or would you rather just get a headache? And what he was saying.
Are those my only choices?
Those my only. I would actually like a.
How about no bruise?
I'd like a holiday in Hawaii, right? What he was saying is, I can control where the energy goes in your body. So I can make it so that the energy just sort of pops you right in this place, and the bruise will show up here. Or I can shoot the energy all the way through, and the bruise is going to show up here. Or I can just hit your middle column, and it'll go up into your head and give you a bad headache.
Well, what is it? I don't know what the word for it is, but I know the concept, which is that, and that striking, like, if you follow through, it's not gonna have the same effect, but it's like that pop.
Yeah.
Is there a name for what I'm talking about, right?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is, but I don't know what it is.
Because it's almost like a recoil, because if you follow through, it loses its striking force.
All right. You can do this. All right.
Right.
Or you can
Exactly.
do this.
Exactly.
Yeah, striking force. Yeah. That is exactly the way that you strike in Chen style Tai Chi. You stay relaxed and loose. You stay relaxed and loose until the millisecond that your fist contacts the other guy. Only in that millisecond does the energy shoot, and that will harden. It seems, how can I say, harden is not the right word. It fills your body. It fills your arm and your fist, and then it goes into him, and so it's like soft, 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 hard, soft.
Yeah.
Immediately afterward, immediately that you when you release that energy, you're soft again.
Yeah, it's like the wet towel. It's like because
Yes.
there's a pullback action right before the moment of contact.
I was just reaching for my famous towel as you said that, right? Yeah, I mean it's soft. Right? There's no reason to be scared of this. It's perfectly soft, all right? Pop.
You know, Malcolm, I don't know, did you ever because we used to do that, but we'd fold it in a triangle
Yeah.
and roll it, and then you pull the end, right? And then
Oh, ouch.
and then dip that in water.
Dip it in water, exactly. Yeah, I took about a square inch off the thigh of a friend of mine in high school, horsing around in the
So nasty.
it was bleeding down his leg. He was pissed, and I don't blame him.
You should probably delete this part of the recording.
Well, anyway, I wanted to make sure that you saw that because I wasn't sure whether you were going to be around next Saturday.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna.
Well, you're right. I'm going out of town next Saturday.
Oh, okay. Well, there
Yeah,
you go.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll be back east for a short visit.
Well, my advice about this particular thing is just stay awake, and whenever you're exercising, just search for the spirals inside.
Yeah.
They all work the same way. It's very simple, really. And find those, and then just keep working on them. All right. Well, we ended up having a full class anyway.
We had a session. Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good. Ciao.
Bye.